midday in Kutaba. Kutaba, it is in the Nund Division, West Region of Cameroon. You are welcome to the midday bilingual edition of News on Equinox Television, live from Douala, Cameroon. The first part of this newscast is in the French language with Julien Belbisa. Julien Belbisa, good afternoon.
Bon après-midi à vous, Fourmi Armstrong Sanda. Mesdames et messieurs, bon après-midi et merci de faire confiance à Equinox Télévision pour vous informer. Activité des mototaxis à Kribi dans le département de l'Océan. La communauté urbaine peine à mettre de l'ordre dans ce secteur d'activité. Identification et permis de conduire constituent de véritables enjeux pour les conducteurs d'engins à deux roues. Joseph Abena.
Le secteur des mototaxis ici à Kribi est un véritable capharnaüm. Alors que les usagers pointent un doigt accusateur sur l'incivisme des conducteurs des mototaxis, ceux-ci retournent plutôt l'accusation contre la communauté urbaine.
Nous décrions le fait que la municipalité, la communauté urbaine ne joue pas son rôle pour bien sûr encadrer ces conducteurs de moto pour faire en sorte que ce secteur soit assaini. Nous constatons qu'aujourd'hui dans la ville de Kribi, il y a tout genre de chasubles. Il y a la communauté urbaine de Kribi, la communauté urbaine de Déa, la communauté urbaine de Bolova. Il y a toute une sorte de transport clandestin qui se passe malgré le fait que nous, au niveau du syndicat, nous faisons notre rôle.
Toutefois, un citoyen arrive à convaincre plusieurs récalcitrants à rechercher le permis de conduire. Une initiative qui a suscité une grande adhésion.
Ce n'est qu'un début. Vous savez, ça c'est la première et la deuxième vague. Donc le travail continue. Lundi ou plus tard mardi, la troisième vague commence la formation. Et nous pensons que d'ici la fin d'année 2019, on va pouvoir assainir de manière totalement le secteur transport par moto dans le département de l'Océan.
On assiste ici à une cérémonie solennelle de remise des permis à la première cuvée sous la présidence du prophète de l'Océan.
Féliciter les promoteurs qui nous accompagnent dans cette lutte qui n'est pas assez aisée, mais avec ce genre de partenaires, nous pensons qu'on va atteindre les objectifs escomptés, à savoir l'assainissement véritable du secteur de l'autotaxi.
Toutefois, au-delà de l'obtention du permis de conduire, il faut un comportement citoyen pour jouir pleinement de la voie publique.
Le comportement des uns et des autres, c'est ça qui dérange. Quelqu'un peut sortir de l'auto-école tout de suite. On lui dit de respecter un panneau, un feu, de respecter le sens giratoire obligatoire par rapport à son comportement inné. Il ne va pas faire. Mais ce qui est sûr, c'est que ceux qui sont passés dans une auto-école réglementaire ne vont jamais se comporter comme ceux qui ne sont jamais partis.
Après cette initiative de formation des mototaxis au code de la route, saluée par tous, reste maintenant à la communauté urbaine de Kribi d'organiser et d'encadrer ce secteur d'activité pourtant utile aux citoyens.
Ce sont de meilleurs gestionnaires. Cependant, elles sont au cœur des discriminations que subissent les populations rurales, en particulier concernant l'accès à la terre. Les femmes de la ville de Tiang, dans la région de l'Ouest, plaident pour une facilitation de la propriété foncière. Leclerc Tchaken.
Dans un contexte social marqué par la prolifération de discriminations de tout ordre, la situation de la femme ne s'en trouve que particulièrement marquée. Les préjugés sociaux et culturels sont souvent géniteurs d'une ségrégation fondée sur l'appartenance à une catégorie sexuelle. Dans la région de l'Ouest Cameroun, les femmes possèdent 0,1% des titres enregistrés. Elles plaident pour une facilitation de l'obtention d'un titre foncier.
Pour l'obtention d'un titre foncier au Cameroun, que l'État sorte officiellement un prix selon les zones. Comme ça, ça va faciliter les mamans à engager des titres fonciers. Il faudra qu'on soit satisfait sur le terrain. Parce que ce n'est pas le fait de parler qui prouve c'est ce qu'on fait sur le terrain.
Au regard des contraintes qui continuent de limiter l'accès des femmes à la propriété foncière, de nouvelles stratégies ont été identifiées pour renforcer le plaidoyer et obtenir de meilleurs résultats.
On avait demandé aux chefs traditionnels qui sont également regroupés autour des chefs de famille pour que ces autorités mènent une sensibilisation accrue à l'endroit des chefs de famille, effectivement, pour que les femmes aient accès justement à la propriété foncière, notamment en éliminant toutes les barrières, n'est-ce pas, culturelles, qui écartent les femmes, n'est-ce pas, notamment en droit successoral, dans le partage des patrimoines. Plus que les hommes, les femmes sont les meilleurs gestionnaires. Dans l'ensemble de ça, c'est connu. Et cela est encore plus valable, n'est-ce pas, dans la gestion du patrimoine familial.
La femme, seigneur de la terre, à travers l'agriculture et le pâturage, demeure laissée en matière d'accès à la terre au Cameroun. Tel est le paradoxe auquel le projet Femmes et Foncier, initié par Horizon Femmes, se propose de s'attaquer.
Lutter contre la grande criminalité, le terrorisme et surtout être impartial dans l'exercice de leurs fonctions, telles sont quelques recommandations du vice-président de la Cour d'appel de l'Ouest au nouveau responsable du tribunal militaire de la dite région. Ces recommandations ont été faites au cours d'une cérémonie d'installation à laquelle a pris part notre reporter Leclerc Tchaken.
La salle d'audience du tribunal militaire de Bafoussam a servi de cadre à l'installation des officiers du parquet du tribunal militaire nommé le 5 mars dernier par le chef de l'État. Dans son discours de circonstance, le vice-président de la Cour d'appel de l'Ouest a rappelé aux nouveaux promus que la justice militaire a sa dimension organique qui n'est pas comme les autres, non sans mentionner que le magistrat est un esclave de la loi.
Dans sa dimension organique et même fonctionnelle, la justice militaire n'est pas une justice comme les autres, c'est une justice spéciale, en raison des individus qui en délimitent le champ d'exercice, rationnés, personnels, à savoir les militaires, et assimiler la mission du magistrat, qui fait d'ailleurs partie d'un corps d'élite de la République, n'est pas facile. Vous êtes doit nous savoir que chaque jour qu'il entre au palais de justice, il est un esclave, l'esclave de la loi.
Une fois l'installation effective, les heureux du jour se disent prêts à assumer avec magistrat leur nouvelle mission.
Je veux rendre justice saine. Nous, le président de la séance venait de dire que nous sommes les esclaves de la loi dès qu'on approche le palais de justice. Je disais que je serais l'esclave de la loi, mais je vais être guidé par ma conscience. Et je veux rendre jusqu'à rien que la justice.
Je dois veiller à la discipline stricte dans les casernes et également participer à la politique nationale de lutte contre le terrorisme et le grand banditisme. Je mettrai tout en œuvre pour être à la hauteur des attentes du haut commandement. Merci.
Cette audience solennelle d'installation a vu la présence d'une palette d'autorités administratives, militaires, judiciaires, également des proches venus marquer d'une pierre blanche ce moment de grand bonheur.
Les chefs traditionnels représentent-ils un atout face aux conflits et crises qui menacent la stabilité de l'Afrique? Un colloque regroupe cette fin du mois les rois et chefs traditionnels du continent. Le projet ambitionne de revitaliser les chefferies traditionnelles afin d'en faire une véritable force de proposition. Dalastiana, Donald Briskamgan.
La gouvernance traditionnelle face aux mutations en cours en Afrique, le rôle de la chefferie dans la recherche des solutions aux crises et conflits divers qui fragilisent le continent, il y a de la matière pour le prochain colloque consacré aux rois et chefs traditionnels en Afrique.
Les chefs traditionnels, ils l'ont dit expressément plus d'une fois, souhaitent être associés à la démarche pour la recherche des solutions aux problèmes auxquels vous faites allusion sans le nommer et que nous connaissons tous. Peut-il en être autrement que non, parce que dans les régions du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest, pour ne pas les nommer, les chefs traditionnels sont aux premières lignes, sont parmi les premières victimes.
La journée des rois et chefs traditionnels d'Afrique veut aussi contribuer à la restauration de la culture africaine noyée dans la mondialisation.
Je suis devant vous, je parle de la culturation, mais je vous parle en français. Quelle éducation je vais donner à mon petit qui j'ai laissé à la maison? C'est de ça qu'il est question. Je voudrais que ce soit un réveil de conscience collective, que ce soit l'affaire de tous les enfants, de tous les fils du pays, pour qu'ils portent ce projet. Je suis là seulement pour réveiller les consciences.
L'autre défi du colloque sur les chefferies traditionnelles, c'est aussi révéler les valeurs, les spécificités et les richesses que regorge ces temples de la culture africaine.
Pourquoi la journée des reines? Vous savez, le roi ne peut rien faire quand il n'y a pas la reine à côté. Et quand on parle reine, on parle les reines et les princesses qui vont ouvrir le bal cette journée avant de clôturer le 30 juillet.
Reste à sortir les chefferies traditionnelles de l'emprise politicienne du pouvoir sous le poids de laquelle elles semblent s'enfoncer.
Dans la minute sport de ce journal, CAN Égypte 2019, le Sénégal et l'Algérie qualifiés pour la finale. Les Lions de la Teranga ont battu 1-0 les Aigles de Tunisie au stade du 30 juin du Caire. L'unique but de la partie a été inscrit à la 100e minute dans les prolongations, but du défenseur Dylan Brown contre son camp. Les deux équipes ont manqué 2 pénaltys en cours de jeu dans le temps réglementaire. Ferjani Sassi à la 73e minute pour la Tunisie et Henri Saivet à la 80e minute pour le Sénégal. Les Lions de la Teranga joueront leur deuxième finale de l'histoire avec l'Algérie après celle perdue en 2002. Voilà qui met un terme à la première partie de ce journal. À présent, la seconde, elle est en langue anglaise. Avec vous, Fomi Armstrong Sanda. Good afternoon once again.
Bon après-midi, Julien Bert Bisay. Viewers, thanks for joining us on this second segment of news in the English language. We begin with the 5-point resolutions of the United States Senate. Senators of the United States of America wish to see an end to the worsening conflict hitting the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Meeting in its 116th session, the Senate came out with a resolution urging the governments of the Republic of Cameroon and even separatists to consider an immediate ceasefire and equally respect human rights, engage an immediate dialogue to end the worsening Anglophone crisis. Innocent as they read through that document and put together the following report.
The United States Senate, in a gathering, began by calling for a ceasefire in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. The House urged the government and Southern Cameroon's activists to call for a ceasefire as a first step towards peace talks to end the war. The Senate argued that no meaningful dialogue can really take place when fighting is ongoing. The U.S. Senate demands governments of Cameroon, armed separatist groups, and all citizens to respect human rights and adopt non-violent approaches to conflict resolution. By this, there will be an opportunity for humanitarian groups to assist persons in need in the regions. The release of all those detained in connection to the Anglophone crisis was equally raised as part of the solution. Besides this, detained human rights activists, politicians, journalists, lawyers, and others detained for condemning government's excesses should be set free. The U.S. Senate, meanwhile, condemned the activities of the military, separatist fighters, and elements of the Boko Haram sect who have been carrying out extrajudicial killings, illegal detentions, and violations of fundamental human rights and freedoms. By this, the Senate calls for an impartial investigations of allegations of human rights violation, detention, torture, disappearance, death, arbitrary arrest, and detention of people under deplorable conditions. The U.S. Senate equally calls on separatist fighters to stop committing human rights abuses and end school boycotts in the Anglophone regions of the country. This should be accompanied by the release of all those kidnapped. Still, the U.S. Senate urges the Cameroon government to initiate credible, transparent, and inclusive dialogue with religious and community leaders in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon. To the U.S., this can be achieved by soliciting independent and credible mediators. After the mediation, the US is firm that there should be an improvement in electoral process and major reforms in electoral institutions. Besides this, the Cameroon government should promote the rule of law through more transparent accountability mechanisms.
And in the Anglophone crisis-hit regions, bike riders, notably commercial motorbike riders in the city of Kumba, turn out over the weekend in protest of what they call abuse and continuous harassment from both the security and defense officers of Cameroon and separatist fighters as they go about their daily activities in the city of Kumba, angry over the killing of one of theirs. The commercial motorbike riders of the city of Kumba stormed the senior divisional office in Kumba, and equally the DO for Kumba 2 sub-divisional office, complaining to her, among other grievances, the insecurity that is raging on in the town of Kumba. They, however, were received by the DO for Kumba 3. More on what happened on a Saturday, described as a busy and equally disturbing Saturday in Kumba, with Simat Njikan Gabriel.
Disgruntled commercial motorcycle riders in Kumba, Meme division of the Southwest region. They were over 5,000 in number that stormed the senior divisional officer's premises this Saturday after one of theirs was reportedly killed at newly out neighborhood under the Kumba 2 municipality with his money and bike taken away. Their presence at the senior divisional officer's premises was to say enough is enough and that they want things to get back to normalcy.
Come back, you know, come back. Now I don't see who can take back.
The first assistant SDO for Meme was on hand to get the grievances of these angry commercial bike riders and challenged them to go back to work.
From this Monday, I want to see Okada on the street.
Yes!
We are there to support you. No gendarme will harass you.
Just like at the SDO's office, bike riders also stormed the premises of the divisional officer for Kumba 3. Here, Epole Waneveklin was told by the bike riders that they no longer want ghost town, that security forces should stop harassing them and schools should resume next academic year. A bike rider narrates their ordeal in the hands of the alleged separatists. Some of us, when they seize our bikes, they ask us 50,000 francs, and when we pay, they don't even give us our motorcycle. Again, the security forces who are supposed to work with us instead extort money from us. They don't even look at our documents but are concerned with the money.
They didn't even focus on even the book. They focus on money. With these days, transportation set with the one go to the play the hotel for will be first will be by 300 to 150.
There are also some bike riders who say because of the crisis they have never gone to their villages.
Now this troublemaker.
It is because of this crisis that I escaped from Konye a year ago. Until date, I can't go back to Konye. To put to an end to the said ghost town that has crippled business in Kumba, the bike riders made some suggestions to the administrative authority.
I want just beg government
if the government can assure us of 2 liters of fuel each Monday for 4 months steadily, and we work, others will come out and the ghost town will be buried. Epole Waneveklin, the divisional officer for Kumba 2, who intervened to hear the grievances of these commercial bike riders, was from her early morning sports exercise.
Be ready to collaborate with.
You've accepted to collaborate with the law enforcement officers if they also accept to collaborate with you. I was impressed with what your brother said. I know commercial bike riders own the town. So I am glad to know that you have decided to take back the town.
Don't decide to take back Una town. I'll be very happy. Okay now, yeah?
Before the bike riders left the DO's office, they were given fuel. Many are now waiting to see how Monday will look like in Kumba.
Actually, after the incident that was yesterday, the SDO for Meme, Ntundong Chamberlain, promised the government's assistance of over 1.5 million francs CFA to commercial motorbike riders. The money, he says, is coming from Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, was aimed at helping the commercial motorbike riders successfully bury one of theirs who was killed by yet to be identified individuals. Ntundong Chamberlain equally said the divisional administration in Kumba, or in the Meme division, is ready to give for a worth 3,000 francs CFA to commercial motorbike riders who will come out today to work in order to kill the ghost town syndrome. Smanjikan Gabriel tells us more.
It was a busy Sunday for the senior divisional officer of Meme division, Ntundong Chamberlain. First stopover was at the residence of the internally displaced bike rider Ethor Jr., who was allegedly killed by separatists last Friday. Here, the SDO met and comforted the girlfriend of the bike rider and assured her of government support whenever the burial program is scheduled. From the Mukube Street residence of the late bike rider, the convoy of the senior divisional officer moved down to St. Francis Street, precisely at the Mother Water neighborhood where the bike rider was shot and his money alongside bike taken away. After an assessment of the area, the SDO, while returning to his office, made a surprise stopover at the Fiango Market, where he had an exchange with some bike riders. In an open telephone conversation between the SDO and the Minister of Territorial Administration to the hearing of the bike riders, Paul Atanganji promised to support the Kumba Commercial Bike Riders Syndicate with the sum of 1.5 million francs CFA to enable them bury their dead colleague. It was an opportunity for the SDO to comfort the bike riders.
As a state representative, I am taking all the necessary measures from the mutual charge, the company. All those things are under my own responsibility. Because what happened is, I don't know how to qualify it. I am here to tell you that I am going to give my own support to you. I am going to support this activities with you and to be sure that you must be safe. You know, in the past, you used to be other people. I used to tell you, you was your brother yesterday. Tomorrow can be you. If we don't put our hands together while waiting, we have to immobilize ourselves to stop ghost town.
Commercial bike riders had planned to bury their colleague this Monday, which is Ghost Town, but after consultation in the office of the senior divisional officer without the father of the late bike rider Ethor Jr., it has been agreed that the bike rider will be buried instead on Thursday.
And the story continued to develop from Kumba in the Meme division, despite the pledge of the commercial motorbike riders to work today in order to kill the ghost town syndrome in Kumba if offered a fuel by the divisional administration of the Meme, and equally the acceptance of the Meme divisional authorities to do so. Kumba today remained in a traditional ghost town mood. Streets around the Boya Road, that is the Boya Road neighborhood of Kumba, remains highly deserted, with out without even a commercial motorbike rider spotted in the area, as seen there on the images sent by our correspondent in the city of Kumba. The same picture was witnessed around the Kumba City Council head office, where not even a commercial motorbike rider was seen. Those were images of the city of Kumba in the early hours of today, Monday, even at the time when commercial motorbike riders pledged to fight against the ghost town syndrome. And some of them reportedly, however, turn out today as they slowly continue to develop. It is said that some of them turn out today to get the fuel promised by the Meme Divisional Administration. And of course, we are yet to fully confirm or independently confirm if they have gone to the streets of the city of Kumba after filling their tanks with the fuel promised by the divisional or senior divisional officer for the Meme. We had some few images of some of the bike riders who turned out at the premises where the fuel was supposed to be distributed. We shall be coming back to this in subsequent editions of News on Equinox Television. I will stay in the southwest region of Cameroon, but this time around, out of the Meme division, we are in the Fako division of the southwest region of Cameroon, where thousands have been displaced in Muyuka, which is a subdivision in this division of the southwest region of Cameroon. Most of them living in the littoral region and some even in the west region of Cameroon. Those living in Douala in the littoral and parts of the Mungo division still in this region over the weekend had the opportunity to meet with their elite, notably the mayor of the Muyuka municipality, who came to comfort some of them displaced by the war. He promised that things will be fine and they should consider going back to Muyuka. Derek Jato told the mayor and fighting the following report.
The war at home drove them out, and they say their houses too were burned down. I am from Munyenge, this woman says. I left for church that Sunday to pray for peace, and they came and burned down my house.
They brought our house. As I go to church, I don't miss that church.
What do you see me putting on? I beg from neighbors here in Susa. She tells her story, and such stories are familiar here.
You won't enter bush. You want in a fire, that way they don't burn all what things.
I just stay okay. My partner will be the one where I know we there. Where the bullet they enter, machine gun they enter, shoot. Chakara people the houses. Which place from?
And today, Menkel Michael, the mayor of Muyuka subdivision, is crossing the Mungo, going after his displaced people with relief aid. And his first stop point was in Bonaberi, Douala 4.
Hello! Good morning.
Where he cheered up these Muyuka people. You are a proud people, Menkel Michael told them. Hard-working farmers, he had.
Because the Wuka woman can go to farm, come back for evening time, send that kid of school, send that kid of Wyman country.
Don't be discouraged, remain hopeful. The end is coming.
We know say they will end, and when I will go back.
Not long from now, you all will come home in style.
Maybe we are going to back in a better way.
And if that happens, 7-month-old Miriam will be doing so for her first time. Her mom ran from Muyuka when she was just 4 months pregnant with Miriam. But some people will never go home, not because they don't want to, but because they are no longer with us. Death took them.
Because of my sister I have, I did it now, then my mother started sick. Balance died on the 23rd February.
We came in from Muyuka to Douala. My husband started sick here in Douala and later died. We just buried him. A widow in grief and hunger told her story.
Now in this occasion, we say Asha for that died. And God called him. He died when?
My husband is dead, and he is in the mortuary here in Douala. Another widow. And each one here must have lost a relative to the war. And it is not only bullets that are taking lives. Trauma Poverty, frustration and sickness are responsible for many deaths of these victims of the Anglophone crisis. They once saw the turn of littoral region.
Yesterday we distributed along the Douala line, Douala, Mbanga, Souza, Kompina, Kombi, and today was that of Boya and Limbe. Nice.
Menkeng Michael, the mayor of Moyoka subdivision, says the gesture is solely Moyoka Council initiative.
It's 100% Moyoka Council initiative. They are talking about 250 bags of rice, 100 cartons of granite oil, 100 cartons of soap, 100 bags of salt, 100 cartons of sanitary pads for women, and Maggi, a lot of Maggi and other items.
And thanking their mayor.
Great God, continue for blessing and fill the hands and the Moyoka Council.
These displaced Moyoka people added that his coming alone has given them hopes, and they are highly spirited that the end is near.
And it is with that report that we end the midday edition of the Bilingual Newscast on Equinox Television. We thank you for your kind attention. The next edition of the Bilingual Newscast comes up at 4 p.m. Julien Bed-Bissay and I will be back, God willing. Julien, the next edition is 4 p.m.
Exactly, for me, Armstrong Sanda. La prochaine édition d'information, mesdames et messieurs, c'est lorsqu'il sera 16h sur cette même antenne. Merci d'avoir suivi cette édition bilingue du journal.